Welcome to Hello Chaos, a weekly podcast exploring the messy and chaotic minds and lives of founders, entrepreneurs, and innovators. Each week, I have the privilege to speak with founders across the spectrum, founders from different industries at various stages, from startups to mature businesses of all shapes and sizes. Our listeners get to hear the real, the raw, the unvarnished viewpoints and stories, getting incredible insights on what it takes to start and scale a business, to become a better founder, a better CEO, or just a better business leader in the community. I'm excited to have on our show today just the energy and the vibe that we had in the green room. But today we have Simona Costantini. Please, I hope I answered Costantini because my autocorrect didn't wanted to throw in Constantine. But
you are good.
But Simona is the CEO and founder of Volt Productions and, a podcast extraordinaire producer, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Been doing it for a while. So welcome to the chaos.
Thank you so much. This is so fitting. I feel like my life is so chaotic in this current moment that I'm like, yes, let's embrace it.
But it's welcome. We got to welcome it, embrace it.
Exactly.
I know when we polled all these like founders and entrepreneurs around like what word describes kind of your world, your vibe, we would hear trailblazer and grit and all this stuff, but chaos kept coming up. But they were like, some were like, oh, but it's anxiety, but I got to welcome it. And I was like, oh, so it's hello, chaos. Let's bring it.
I actually love that. Like the way that you broke that down, I love that because I feel like chaos is a very perfect a way to describe the founder journey, and also like the most accurate description in the most like loving and kind way, because chaos doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No. And some people thrive on and I think that's, we talked about kind of what makes entrepreneurs and founders, innovators. It's a mindset. We thrive sometimes in chaos. Some people are better at it than others. And that's where, mental health and mental wellness, we got to work on to keep the chaos from getting out of control within our, but also as you start growing, we call it like the new level, new devil, as you start growing and scaling and bringing on, as leaders, we've got to go, I gotta tame that chaos and bring clarity, some of that chaos. I got to bring structure to that chaos to help the people grow with me on the team. So, but before we skip ahead and start jumping in, start us out about your journey. What inspired you to start Volt? Get in and jump into Foundership.
Yeah. So I started podcasting at the end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And I started it was actually really interesting. I woke up one summer in 2018 and I was like, I am so miserable. Like, why am I so unhappy? Like, I hated everything. And I don't like to use the word hate because I feel like that can be like really intense, but I hated everything about myself. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way I talked. I hated that I was like a gossipy type of person. I hated that I fed into drama, like all of these things. And
were you working for somebody at like an agency or what? Like,
no,
what was your world?
I was working in corporate. I worked for a major airline in Canada. So I live in Canada. And so I worked for a major airline in Canada, and I worked in internal communications, and I did a lot of video production when I was in that role, and all kinds of like, internal comms and like that kind of stuff. And it was super fun. Like it was a fun job, but I always had this feeling. I'm like, there's something more to life. Like there's got to be something more than just this. I'm like, really? Like I'm going to wake up every single day, get in my car, drive all the way there, sit there, and then I'm going to have someone else tell me what to do every single day for the rest of my life. Like you cannot be serious. I was like, this is horrible. So and like no shade, because some people have, you have to do it. People like the stability of having a job, and like that's amazing.
There's some people that thrive in that. I mean, I'll tell you about my journey. I never thought I wanted to start my own company. I never had. I felt like I had an entrepreneurial mindset, but it was inside of agency world. Like I'm a serial agency person. I've worked for agencies for 25 years before I started Bright Marketing, which is the company I've owned for over a decade.
Amazing.
And, I don't know what got me to wild hair to start Orange Whip and Hello Chaos was really, a whole different like
ball game, like a whole
inspiration of, because, I started Orange Whip out of my frustration of being a founder and not finding the ecosystems connected enough. in a broader spectrum that was really diverse and inclusive. I didn't see myself in ecosystems. And I kept hearing that from other female founders, from other Black founders, or if they were an artist that was an innovator in their space, or somebody that was a restaurateur innovator. These entrepreneurial ecosystems in these communities, all over the country, it was like, that's just for tech guys. Those are for the tech bros. And I'm like, so they're not going to get support if I don't fit this mold. And I started just talking to founder about 2,000 all over the country back in like 2022, and it was that repeating. And I'm going, that's how I felt for 9 years before I entered in and really found a community and found the benefits of a connected entrepreneurial community. And really helped Greenville kind of break the mold to go, you need to be looking at the broader spectrum of entrepreneurship.
Well, it's so true because the way in which when you start your entrepreneurial journey or you have a business, because like I have Volt Productions, which is my agency, but I also co-founded another company. It's called North Flow, and that just launched in January, and it's a podcast project management system.
Ooh.
And in both of those journeys, they've been so totally different. And like it's just it's so crazy because it's like, anyways, I won't get too ahead of myself, but what you're saying makes so much sense because you need that type of community. And the more you continue to elevate yourself and the more you continue to hit that next level and that next level and that next level, like you were saying, like the more you do that, the harder it can be. I don't know if you've found this, but I've found the harder it can be to relate back to the people that were in my life before.
No, nobody can relate.
It's crazy.
It was fascinating. And like, I was on the agency. I'm like, cause I would see the owners of the agencies that would just have like the stress. And I'm like, but let me, I can be the best, number 2, number 3, manager or whatever I was leading. But, universe happens of like
Always.
The glass ceiling got crushed on my head of, I was told I was salary capped and title capped, that a female wasn't able to go to the next level within the job I was in. They weren't ready for a female at that next level. And so I was like, well, okay, well, I'll leave.
I'll just go do my own thing.
I'll go do my own thing. And really it was like, well, I'm going to go figure out what I want. I had a couple gigs and I was like, I could do these gigs. I could add more gigs, but my phone was ringing off the hook from people that I'd worked with, old copywriters and creative directors and media people and account people. And they were like, hey, can you come and do this for, this client, or my client needs your help? And then I'm like, I could make an agency out of this model. So that's how that started. It was,
that's so cool.
But it was like, I was never one that was like, ooh, I want to do this. So I felt very alone.
Caution to the wind.
Yeah. I felt very alone and very unprepared. I knew how to run like an agency, the operations of an agency, but not the business finances side.
See, it's interesting.
It
just was the opposite of that. Like
really?
When I started, so when I started, so I had all that happen. And I started to see this therapist. She was amazing. I loved her. And then she kind of like sparked something in me that I had this idea. I was like, I just want like one person to feel less alone. And like, if I'm learning all these things about how life can be and how we can explore our emotions and how we can become more in tune with ourselves and what we actually want versus just walking through life, doing all of the things people expect us to do. How many people actually live their life doing the things they truly want to do? Yeah. You get a job and people say, oh, that's crazy. Why would you ever do that job? Or you start a business and people are like, why would you ever do that? This is insane. Or, you move across the country and people are like, why would you do that? But, a lot of the times people put a lot of their own fears and their own projections into everything else that you do. Right. So when I was in this moment, I was like,
so hold on. When you're in this moment, so you were working at this airline, this agent. I was. So did you start seeing a therapist while you were there?
I did. I needed the help.
Because you needed the help. And then it's like you started having these aha moments.
I did.
Of like these self-reflections of what do I want to do? How do I find joy in my life?
Exactly. And I was like 26, 27 at the time. And I had been with my then boyfriend turned fiance, turned husband, now turned ex-husband. Everything is fine. It was like a good thing.
That was a fast.
It was yeah. We had been together for 10 years, but that's like totally beside the point. But so he had kind of like walked through some of that journey with me as well. And then when I was like in the therapy side of things, I was like, okay, I was like, well, I feel like I need a way to share this information that I'm learning, with other people. And then I just had this like drop into my awareness. I was like, oh, happiness happens. I'm like, happiness happens. So I actually turned Happiness Happens into a podcast that I launched at the beginning of 2019.
And you were doing the kind of on the side.
I was still working full time, and I was like, I'm like, this brings me joy. Like, this is something that's very fun.
It's therapy. It's
exactly.
This is my therapy.
Exactly. And they were just like 15-minute solo episodes that I did on my own. And I did that for about 8 months. And then I started interviewing different business owners to understand like how they got to where they were.
Right.
And then that encouraged me and inspired me to start a life coaching business that I did for about a year.
Okay.
And then the world shut down in 2020. I lost my job because no one was flying anywhere. And worked a job like in between, but I very much focused on what did I want to do? Like, what did I want to create in my life at that point? And because I had the podcast from 2019, I actually was doing a lot of freelance editing on the side through Fiverr of all places. And I had, about 10 clients or so on Fiverr. So at the beginning of 2021, probably like January, February, I left my corporate job like once and for all. I was like, I have this new start. I don't have a job. You know what I mean? Like I might as well just try. Right. So I did that. It took me about January and February to get myself all organized. In March, I had told my Fiverr clients, I said, if you want to come over to my agency directly, I'll give you a better rate, and which is illegal. You're not supposed to do that on Fiverr, so don't tell anyone. But that's okay. Just tell the whole world here. And so I gave them a better rate. I launched my podcast launch services in March of 2021, sold out in 72 hours, and we have never stopped since. Like we're going into 2025, and we have been doing this day in, day out, podcast launching, management, production, all of the things. And I've learned so much about myself along the way. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned is like, why not just do what you want to do? Like, why buy into all of the shoulds and all of the things that you should do? Like, who does that serve? Because it doesn't serve you.
Right. So that's what you learned, discovered about yourself. What's been the most rewarding aspect of starting your own company?
Okay. So I work with a lot of women entrepreneurs primarily. I've helped some men along the way, but I think the biggest and most rewarding piece is the way in which the women that we get to work with find their confidence in their voice and like their inner confidence, and actually show up to the mic and make a really big difference with what they share, whether it's in the parenting space, whether it's in digital marketing, whether it's in health and wellness. I believe that everyone has a really important message to share. And when we don't do that, we do a big disservice to our community, to our friends, to our family, to ourselves for not showing up as the person that we are and sharing the messages that we were meant to be. Yep, exactly.
Yep,
exactly. So that's been the most rewarding piece, I think. I mean, not only that, but like it's turned into speaking all across North America. I get to go to all kinds of conferences and events. I also get to create my own schedule and not have to sit in rush hour traffic, which is such a blessing. In Toronto, our traffic is almost worse than LA over here. So, there's a lot of rewards, but I think the biggest one is definitely watching people find their own confidence and changing their lives.
Finding their voice, finding their truth.
You can't put a price on that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Thanks.
What's been the most challenging part? Have you had
everything
as you've developed this one also, and then you started a whole nother another business? What's been like the biggest, oh shit, like what have I done?
Okay. So I have this one thought. I'm like, everything that I touch kind of turns into a business. So I think one of the biggest challenges is that like all of the hobbies that I've had have turned into a way of making money, which is not a bad thing. Like it's a good thing, but then also
like most people want that.
It's true. It's very true.
You're going, yes, please. Like, you're going, yes, please.
But then also, it can be tiring though too, because it's like not everything always needs to make you money. You know what I mean? Like you can do something just for fun. But I think the biggest challenge overall has been learning how to manage a team, because I'm very hands off. Like I'm not a micromanager by any stretch. It's one of the things that I disliked the most about being in corporate,
Right.
and that I didn't love from the bosses that I used to work for. And so that has been a challenge, because I'm like, okay, like, we have this one idea. Okay, let's just run with it. You know what I mean? So sometimes I'm so fast at doing all of the things that there isn't really a structure behind what we're doing. And
Yeah.
that can be a little bit chaotic for my team. So it's managing their expectations, my thoughts, and,
Right.
what I would like to create, and balancing the two.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. I coach a lot of other, not necessarily, these aren't necessarily startups. Some of these are mature businesses, but they haven't scaled. They haven't accelerated.
Interesting.
And I can say lessons learned and Chandler's going to go, yes, this has been a challenge. As we've worked through our own system, like systems and processes, like you can't scale and accelerate in a way that feels comfortable without, mapping those processes out. And
Yes.
that was a hard lesson, like personally, because I would have turnover, because I would go, I'm not going to micromanage. I've hired adults. I have a macro process. You figure, like, as long as this is being done.
Yeah.
But I recognized that, I didn't have systems in place to put guardrails up to protect the individual, to make sure that the macro processes were being followed, so that the quality, it was consistently delivered. And then also the guardrails weren't in place to protect the business financially,
Yeah.
to make sure that, hey, this was only supposed to take 50 hours. We got people like running
Now we're
amok.
at
We
like
got, 1,000 hours into this. This is not good. Hey, founders, quick pause in the chaos for something that might just change the way you think about marketing. Quick question. Is your marketing actually working or just making noise? Bright marketing helps founders and CEOs stop guessing and start growing. They're not like most agencies. They don't push cookie cutter campaigns or chase trends. They start with curiosity, the kind that uncovers what's really holding your business back and builds a strategy that actually moves the needle. Because marketing is not a department. It's not an expense. It's a growth engine if you do it right. If your brand feels stuck, scattered, or misaligned, they can fix all that. They are offering a mini brand therapy workshop, a 60-day tune-up. Only 5 slots are available. Send an email to hello@gobrightnow.com to grab one of these spots, or to learn how their service packages work to help you get clarity, confidence, and real results. Send that email today and write curious in the subject line. Now back to the chaos. And so, and it was that was like an aha for me, was somebody was like, Jennifer, you're making an assumption that these macro processes, that people actually know how to, just because they've come from this experience and they've got this, caliber of 15 years or 20 years, don't assume they know how to do those things.
It's so true.
And I was like, oh, but no, they've worked in this space. So like, and they're like, monitor it. And I'm going, oh. And also what you do, and you've come from big agency, you have been trained by some of the best minds in your experience. Do not assume the same people you bring on. So you've got to be the teacher and the educator and map out how it works under you. Because there's 100,000 agencies out there, but what you do is very different.
Exactly.
And map that out so that everybody can feel successful. Clients feel that why they hired you, and it's consistent, but your team feels safe and protected, that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but the business is also being protected financially. And I was like, when I didn't think of it that way, and I was like, so that was like a aha for me 5+ years ago. And so we've been working to build those playbooks, build those systems, but also do it in a way that fits our brand. Because that was another like aha about a year ago. We were building all these systems and tools, and I wanted to be very prescribed. And then somebody was like, yeah, but your brand is all about problem solving and agility. Have you made it so rigid that, and prescribed that you are not allowing your team to breathe and to problem solve and to adapt to the client's needs. And I'm like,
Interesting.
shit.
Nope.
I'm gonna, I need to so now we're in the of merging our ops playbook with our brand playbook. So it becomes really clear of why we're doing what we're doing, why we've chosen these tools, why we have these processes in place. And it's because it lifts up our brand. So making those connections. But those were, yeah. And I'm in branding and I'm in marketing and I'm in advertising, and it took other people to kind of go,
well, that's the thing.
wake me up.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're too close to what you do, though, it's very
that's
challenging to see things from a different perspective.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? And it's like other people on the outside can say like, okay, no, this team member's got to go, or this thing isn't working, or this process
It's so
is
hard.
faulty. It's so hard to see it for your own self. And like, I don't know about you, but like I don't want to say I am still, because I definitely think I've worked on this a lot. But when I was first starting my business, I was a huge people pleaser. So
Yeah.
I undercharged a lot.
Yes.
Like my rates were significantly lower than everybody else. You know what I mean? The work that we did was significantly better than a lot of people.
We're still in that position. That's still the feedback that we get, is that we're a value brand. But also I think it's I don't know if it's because we're in a creative world.
Yeah.
As owners, and also because I've talked to both men and women in kind of our space, we tend to be service minded. And very much people pleasers.
Oh yeah.
We undervalue what we do, but also we give more. Like, so it's not just, hey, the rate I gave you or this for this package was probably spot on.
Yeah.
But we tend to give more. And
like,
so
let me add in a few more calls. Like, let me
add
do
for
a
like
few
this,
extra
or
things. Like, let me just redo this one thing for you really quick. Like, it's no problem.
You
but
don't
I'm
like
happy
that?
to do them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy to do them. And
That's
I
right.
think that's what makes people, like, I know for my own agency, that's what makes people work with us. It's not because I sacrifice my boundaries and I like do extra things that I quote unquote don't want to do. I want to do all of those things.
Because you're there to
give
serve.
them. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. But as long as it's but you got to make money.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm very, very lucky. Like our agency's been very profitable since the beginning. So I've actually never had to worry about that, which has been super nice. And I hope to never have to worry about that.
So as you got to like scaling your team and you're kind of going, okay, you know, what's been the biggest lessons that you've learned managing as a founder and a CEO? Like what's been your like aha moments of, oh man, that I can't behave that way, or, you know, whatever that is.
So one thing that I really value is making sure that my team is playing into their strengths. So I don't want and I don't put people in roles or tasks that they don't inherently want to be in. I would rather hire someone else to fill in a gap if I need to, versus make someone on my team pick up all of the different pieces, because I've had this happen before. And this is something that I know this because I learned this, that when people don't love what they do, it's very challenging for them to find the motivation to do it. And then when they do it, it can take a lot longer because it's not their expertise. It's not their wheelhouse. It's not the thing that they want to be doing. So a big lesson that I learned is always making sure that we're playing into everyone on the team's strengths. And when I very much honor their boundaries, I ask them, I say, you know, I have this task, this task, this task. Do you want to pick up any of this extra work? If not, I will do it for now and then I'll find someone else to do it afterwards. Because I feel like that's the only way to make sure that people are happy with what they do, right? So we were joking around at the beginning of, you know, of our conversation that, you know, I had, you know, had to drive to a job and like all this and that, whatever. And like those roles are definitely needed. Like some people need and love that stability. And as an agency owner, my team doesn't want to run their own agency. They don't want to run their own thing, but they do value being able to manage their time in their way and how they need to. So it's kind of a combination of that, making sure people are in the tasks that they love to do. But even more than that, I let them work whenever they want to work. I set deadlines and I expect things to be done by those deadlines. And if they're not, then that's a different conversation. But I've pretty much never had that issue because people get more time to be flexible.
Right.
And then kind of just what we were talking about, like about the processes and stuff like that, learning how to build processes was important. Like I still don't have like actual SOPs or anything like that, which is something I've been trying to create for like 4 years.
It'll come.
It'll come. Exactly. It'll come. You know, but it's like, and we all know what the SOPs are in our mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like, it's finding the time to take them out of our mind and put them down on paper. But when everyone is working towards the same goal, but people feel inspired and happy to do their work every day because they feel valued in what they do,
Right.
that's really important to me. And how do I make people feel valued the most? Well, definitely gratitude for the work that they do, appreciation for all of the stuff that they do, and making sure that people are doing the work that they love. Because if you don't love what you do, you're going to
No.
be like, see you later.
It's so funny. That was kind of when I started out with the agency, it was very much, I was like, I want to align people's strengths with their passions, because then it becomes great work. And you don't have to micromanage, and I don't know if you found this. I had to, in kind of go, the ebbs and flows of that. I think there are people that you can do that. And I have people that are still around from the day one, and still we push
It's
on
so
that of like, are you still doing the things that you love to do? And these things that you're really strong at. But sometimes it's like you get people on the team and it's like, and they're like, I want to do that. And I'm like, let's talk about that. Like, I know it's a passion, but right now it's not a strength. Like, let's work towards that goal. Let's nurture you. But I think it's just knowing, kind of reading that. And then you've had, I've had other people on the team where, because that's what I said. I'm like, I'm not going to have, this structure. You work where you want to work. You work when here's the deadlines. Here's my expectation. And if you can't meet those, we can part ways. Like, it's no hard feelings. But this is what we got. And there's people that thrive under that. But I've also recognized there are some people that we've had on the team that were young enough in their career that they hadn't figured out how to discipline themselves. So they would come in, and because we were like, we don't, I call it work flex, right? That's what we were calling it. But people were coming in, working for, coming in the morning and then working for a couple hours, and then they would take, go to yoga, go have lunch with their, friends, and then come back after, for a couple hours in the afternoon, and then would go home at for 5:00, walking or, cocktails or whatever with friends. And then I would see them pop back on, late at night answering emails. And in my head, I was like, God, they're, it's a full-time position. We've got, billable goals that we've got to meet. And, we started having, like, you're really only working 3-4 hours a day, and you're getting behind on
that's the difference.
Your task, right?
That's the difference.
And
I think it's okay if you're not getting behind. I think that's okay.
It's okay. But they would come back and go, I think I need a raise. Like, I'm working 70 hours a week. And I'm going,
no, you're not.
Let's hold on. They're like, where? And so, we'd have to like, are you inputting your time in correctly? And they're like, yeah, but I feel like I'm working like a dog. I work all the time. And so we kind of, popped open our time logging, and we were like, you've averaged in the last year 24.5 hours a week.
Wow.
And then it was an eye opener for them of what? And I was like, well, here's the thing. You have got the freedom, but you haven't self-disciplined yourself to go, you know what? I probably shouldn't, do yoga twice a day. I probably shouldn't take a 2-hour lunch. Or if I want to do, maybe I should knock out my work and do 7 to 3, knock everything out, and then go home and have the rest of the day or whatever. And they were like, I never even recognized that I was doing that.
This piece about self-discipline, though, is really important, because even when I worked in corporate, like, I am not someone that likes when people tell me what to do and when I need to be at work and when I can leave. Like, I don't like, that's why I work for myself. So I always think to myself, like, if I go and I take an afternoon off, then why can't my team? Granted, my team they're freelancers. They're not salaried employees, right? So it's a little bit different. But having that said, if I can go off and I can do that, then fine. But as long as all of the deliverables are always met, that's the only thing that matters. But when I was working in corporate, I used to take my lunch. And sometimes I would take a little bit of like a longer lunch, and I would go and I would meet a friend for lunch, or I
Right.
would go and I would, do my groceries, or you know what I mean? Like whatever it was that I wanted to do that I didn't want to have to
Life.
spend my whole, yes,
Life. You
exactly.
had to do life.
Exactly. And I think
Yeah.
corporations would be better off if they started to adopt some of these principles, but also it's a slippery slope, right? Because a lot of people will start to take advantage of that, and we don't want that
Right.
to happen.
But
But self-discipline is
it is key. And you have to, when I was in corporate agency, the bigger agencies and stuff, I would be the manager that would get my hand slapped because, I did that. Like I was allowed to leave, but I was working 90 hours a week, and it was,
it's
and I
different.
was traveling and all that. But if I had to go and take off 4 hours, I've got 4 kids. My kids were really, young, and, you do a dental appointment. That's a half a day
There's your whole day.
there. Or sometimes if I'm taking 2 kids for their doctor, it's a whole
All
day
day.
I'm taking off, and I would do my PTO. But if I'm like leaving for a couple hours, my boss would kind of let it go. Hey, look, I know you're going to come back in. Like, I don't
Yeah.
have any worry about you putting the time in. But I put that same philosophy on my team. There were people on my team that were 8 and 5, like, they were only going to do the minimum. So yes, if they were going to leave for 2 or 3, they needed to take the PTO to follow the rules of the corporate, the corporate rules. But I had a lot of people on the team that were working 60 hours a week. And so if they said, "Hey, I need to go run and do my dentist appointment, I need to go do groceries," I would go ahead. I know you're going to come back on at night. I'm not worried about it. But I'll tell you how many times I would be brought into HR to go, "Jennifer, these people aren't filling in their PTO forms." And I'm like, why am I punishing somebody that at the end of the day, they're billing at 90%. So, you know, you know, which is really high in agency world. I was like, they're making the agency money, but also they're working. Like, they're still putting in 60 hours. If you're a 35 hour to a 40-hour person, like those kind of so it's all like individual based, right? But you're right, corporate like there's a rigidness to that mind. It's that mindset of, I got to get out everything that I'm paying in, and like I have we're a blend of W-2s and 1099s. You can't put those parameters on a 1099, but you have the expectation set, right? Of
Exactly.
this is what I need. These are the goals. I need you, and it needs to be at this quality. And if you can't do that, we'll find, there's a lot of other people. Most of our 1099 have been with us from, like I said, day one. It's the W-2s that we've kind of changed our model, because I was 100% tenants, because I didn't want to deal with performance reviews ever again. Like, hated them. But I learned that was kind of my evolution of there are certain positions that we need to have structure. There are certain positions or people that are really good, talented people who feel they need that stability in the structure of a salary. They need the stability in the structure of I need to have like that
Stability.
the hours, the structure. They thrive under that. And like it is, and then teaching people, hey, you can get to have that more of that flexibility, but we've got to help teach that discipline, that self-discipline, because sometimes it doesn't come naturally for a lot of people.
Yeah.
At least that's what, we found over our lovely course of the evolution of our business.
That's amazing.
So as these lessons learned, like you've discovered about yourself, what are things that you really like about yourself that you wish other people recognized about you more?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think that it's almost flipped in some way. Like, I think a lot of people recognize really great things about me, and I don't know that I see those same things all the time.
Like what? Like what?
Well, people will say, "Oh, you're so I don't even know. Like, you work so hard, you're so kind, you're so bubbly." Like, and it's like I know those things, but it's also like, do other people know those things? But then they do know those things. So it's very interesting. Like, I very much stay in my integrity. I do work hard. I always want the best possible outcome for my team, myself, my clients, and like life overall.
Right.
It's a really good question. Like I don't know. I think I definitely over the last years, the work has been me being able to see all of the great things that I bring to the table versus qualities that other people see in me. But I think the biggest challenge, though, in all of this has been the way in which I've changed so much as a person. And it's more so learning to or how to bring other people along that journey with me, because you change a lot as a person, right?
Yeah.
And then your friends and family
Much.
have an expectation of who you've always been. But then
Yeah.
when you start to change, that expectation it doesn't fit what
Or
their
you can't have a discussion with them of
no.
this is my challenge. I mean,
But
you
then it's
kind of hinted
also
at
a
that at
lot
like
yeah.
your circles change.
Exactly. And then it's also like, oh, well, you should do this. You should do this. You have to, I'm looking for a house right now. Like, you have to live here. You have to do this. Like, you have to stay near us. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of
You're
those
like,
things.
why do I have to
Why?
do those
But
things?
it's impossible to explain to people who don't
Yeah.
have the same awareness. Like, when you don't have the same awareness about these specific things, it's very, very challenging to help other people understand when they are so deeply ingrained in their own beliefs and their own judgments. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Oh yeah.
that's been like, honestly, that's been like the biggest piece, because sometimes it makes me feel like I'm delusional, because I'm like, am I losing my mind?
Right.
Am
Right.
I asking for something that's too crazy here? Like,
Or you made to feel guilty for
yes.
something you shouldn't feel guilty, but then you walk into a room with other founders and entrepreneurs and it's like,
It's like, wait,
oh,
what?
we
Oh, this is
we're
normal.
oh, this is normal. Like we see each other.
Mm-hmm.
I feel heard. I feel
Mm-hmm.
seen, like all of that.
Exactly.
I've just had to, accept of not, I don't want to call it boundary, but they're just things that I can't reveal
Yeah,
to certain circles
it's true.
anymore
They just
because
don't understand.
it's not relatable and
Mhm.
their
The world.
conversations turn where
Yeah.
it makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong.
Yep. I hear
And
that.
um
And it's
like
not. And it's
and it's
not something
not
wrong.
wrong,
Yeah.
right? And
It's
and
just
so I've just
different.
kind
And
of
people
learned
don't
of
like the
they don't
change.
relate.
Exactly. And people don't like change. People don't think like things that
No.
are not familiar. We're all creatures of habit. We're all creatures of the things that we like and the consistency that we can bank on. Right. And
Right.
so when anything deviates from that, it's like, oh my gosh, this person is changing
Or
too
the
much, too
box. Like
fast.
people always
Yeah.
think of, because that was like I think that's a myth that exists out there, at least in, I'm a Gen Xer. So, I'm in my 50, I'm 50-ish. I don't say the number anymore. I'm just 50-ish.
Embrace it, because not everyone gets to make it to the next year.
Yeah.
That's how I've always looked at birthdays.
The 50. So, it's like, they're like, oh, well, if you're a female founder, that means you have all this freedom and that means you have all like, and I think it was no, that's just a gig. Like
Mm.
I'm starting something. I'm taking like, I have employees. I have people that
Mhm.
rely on me. I've got clients that it's, and they're like, oh, I thought you just did this so you could spend more time with the kids.
It's like a hobby versus I had someone once,
Yes.
like a friend that's no longer really a friend, had said to me, "This is so fun, like your cute little
Little
podcast
hobby. Yeah.
business hobby." And I'm like, this is the weirdest comment that you could have made. I'm like, do
Right.
you understand like the stuff that we do? I'm like, we work with celebrities. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
Right. You're
what?
like,
Like
what?
this is crazy. And I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But I'm like, you know what? If it fits your narrative of like who I need to be in your mind, then that's fine. Like,
Right.
I'm not
Right.
gonna. I don't have the
I'm not
mental
going to change
capacity
that.
to
And
change people's minds. No.
it was, yeah. And I didn't know, like, I would hear that from my friends circle, but also these were women that also looked at work
Mhm.
as either a hobby or it was a part-time thing. It was what they were, it was a job, not a
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
And so I kind of dismissed that, but it was a big aha for me was when I bought our building, our office building,
Mm.
and
Oh, that's huge.
it was huge, and it was real. Like because we just like you, like as soon as we started the agency, it was like boom, we were growing, and so I bought a building with that, after our first year, and had an open house, and people in the business that I had worked with for 20 years
Mhm.
prior who came in like, oh, like this is a real company, like you've
You're
started a
legit.
real company. And I'm like, what did you think I was doing? I thought it was just like a hobby. I thought you were just like,
Doing it.
one of these other marketing girls that just wanted to, stay at home with their kids. And I'm like, No, I've got 20 people that work with me. It was just the bizarre, but then it was like, oh, that's how people are perceiving.
Yeah.
Not just me, but that's how they perceive women in
Exactly.
the space that are founders. We're not taken seriously. And that became like a mission of we got to change that perception.
Exactly. Which we do.
So how do you deal with the stress? And because your whole thing is about how do I stay happy? How do I find joy? How do I self-discipline and bring joy into make sure that my people are happy and are finding, their space. And so how do you deal with, because stress happens, like shit happens.
Oh,
so how do you deal with that?
It's for me, work, like stress is something that has been a work in progress for a very long time. Like I just went through like a divorce a couple years ago, paid for all of the bills in my house that I live in by myself that was previously 2 incomes, now down to 1. Like, that plus managing a team, plus client ebbs and flows, ups and downs, like all those things. Like I feel like stress to me has just kind of become a constant. I think I've just accepted what it is, and I try not put too much pressure on myself, because when you do put too much pressure on yourself, it's almost impossible to then you put all these conditions around how you have to manage your stress. You know what I mean? So I'm very protective of my time. Like that's one thing. Like I don't like to be on extra calls if I don't need to be. I don't like to stay extra if I don't need to be.
Right.
I don't like to attend meetings that I don't need to attend. Like that kind of stuff. I'm very protective over my calendar. That's like been the number one thing.
Yeah.
I walk.
Also, it gives your team freedom to own things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I walk a lot as well. Like I have a walking pad. Like I have 2 desks like side by side, and like one of them is a walking pad desk and the other one is a sitting desk, which is nice. I walk a lot. I have a dog, so I like to just enjoy, I take him to the dog park or whatever, like anything that I can disconnect. And when I'm not working, I very much try and just be present in my life with what I'm doing. And what I've learned and come to accept in entrepreneurship and, the whole founder journey is there's always going to be more work. There's always going to be more things to do. As long as my to-do list of the day is done and the other things I know can roll over to the next day and it's okay that they roll over.
Yeah.
I feel like that's fine. It just is what it is.
So I'm just like rethinking of like your timeline. So 5-6 years, you have started now 2 companies, but you also got married and divorced.
Yep.
while doing that, like, was becoming a founder. Because I've heard this from a couple other founders, and if you don't want to answer it, that's okay.
No, you're
good. If this is too,
no, you're good.
I'm poking into, poking the bear or whatever. But because I've heard this from a couple other founders of, I liked the person that was, that worked for somebody versus when but when I became a founder, and because you are challenged as a founder, it really makes you, your inner strength comes out, like things, courage, you change.
Oh yeah.
But for the better, a lot of things like that have been buried inside of you get uncovered. But I heard, another founder was like, yeah, my wife liked me, this guy, the career guy. But when I became founder guy, they didn't like me.
Yeah.
They didn't like this person. And I don't know if that happened to you or.
It was more just like, we were so young when we got together. We were 22 and 21, and we had gone through different things in life together. And I think through all those years, I don't regret any of it. Like, he's a wonderful person. I don't have anything bad to say. It didn't end in any like horrible way. You know what I mean? Like there was no,
it just was like, there was no
like,
we're not on the same journey anymore.
There was no nothing. Right. And I think sometimes that makes it even harder, right? Because if there was something like that, then you have something to blame, right? It's like, oh, they did this thing, whatever.
Yeah.
The hardest part for me was being able to accept mostly responsibility in my own way, I guess, that it was me. Like I had gone, and I would say this all the time to my girlfriends. I'd say, I went and I just had to change so much, but I couldn't imagine being that version of myself ever again.
Right.
So it's kind of like, I think it was just like the natural evolution of the relationship. And I believe in marriage. I believe in being with someone. I believe in all of those things. But what I don't believe in is sacrificing your happiness and knowing that you'll never, ever have what you're truly looking for, and, to be loved in the way that you deserve, to be, cared for in the way that you
Right.
deserve. You have one life. And when I really started to look at that, I'm like, I
Right.
have one life. Do I want to spend my life always like feeling like there's more? And it's not even more. Like, I have a wonderful partner now. Not to say my ex wasn't a wonderful partner, but my partner now, we are so aligned. Like,
Right.
we're both entrepreneurs. We have the same values. We have the same missions. Like, we're very, very energetically aligned in that way. And so it's just totally different. Like, you
Well, I'm sure
can't,
you show up, and that makes you show up differently. And I'm sure that, the energy of the vibe, your partner showing up in the way
exactly.
that you need. So would you be doing this if you had no fear, or would you be doing what would you be doing?
I feel like that is just such a good question. I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have any fear. I think that when I started my podcast, Happiness Happens, all those years ago, I always knew deep within me that, like, the message that I needed to share and the way in which the planet would shift, and the energy would shift if I found the confidence within myself to actually share my knowledge and what I was learning with other people, that I knew it would be helpful for other people. And I always just remember that now. I'm like, the purpose and the mission far outweighs the fear of being uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? And so I really try and remember that. I think I probably would be speaking on more stages. I probably would be asking to be paid to speak on those stages. That's definitely that's like a next thing for me, which will be good. But I don't know what else I would be doing, because
We're going to manifest that.
Yeah, I just kind of say yes to, like, not yes to everything, but I say yes to all of the things that feel in alignment, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
But I know that fear, if I fed into fear and if I let fear dictate my life, I know that I would still be working in corporate, and I probably would be very unhappily married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've broken free of that. There you go.
Exactly.
All right. So if you could sum up your founder journey in just one word, what word would that be?
Exciting. I think it would be exciting. And the reason why is because I've gotten to do and try so many new things that I never thought possible.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much about myself that I'm so grateful to wake up every single day and to get to do this every single day.
And just
I'm so
excited
about it. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, next chapter. What's the word that defines that next chapter in your journey?
Peace. I would say peace and stability. Yeah. It's funny because the show's Hello Chaos, and my life has been very chaotic for the last few years, and I'm in the process of moving. And then once I move, I know it's just going to be like,
okay, we can settle. We can take a breath.
Yeah.
You've had I would say, we always say entrepreneurship and, foundership is hard the first 5 years, but you added extra stress on top of yours. And I think I heard this from another founder, and I love it because I think it speaks to us. Not only are we roller coaster, the emotions, but somebody was like, we have two emotions. It's euphoria or depression. And we want, that the ability to just take a breath and have the pause.
Yes.
But we do, the dips and the valleys so much. But
sometimes you have to force that pause.
Yeah.
You got to find otherwise the universe will do it for you.
That's right. That's right.
It's very true.
You're like,
you can't operate at 1,000% every single day.
You cannot. You need to
find. Yeah.
You got to take the breaths and know when to, that was a lesson for me of because I was running hard for so long, and it was like, and then you break.
Exactly.
Your band of resilience of the rubber band became super brittle. And it needs to build the elastic back is what
I love that. That's a good analogy.
There you go. That's my lasting little advice.
I love it. Amazing.
All right. Okay. We're out of time, and I'm gonna wrap up. So where can people learn more about you, about Volt, did you say it was North Star?
North Flow.
North Flow.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that name come from?
Well, that can be a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
You could have, we're four
We're
founders.
We're going to do part two.
Part two.
Yeah.
I love it. And that would be fun on the podcasting world too, because it's a podcast project management app. But that company I became a founder of May of 2024. And it's been an amazing journey, which we could talk about it. But anyways.
Yeah. We'll do a part two on North Flow.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can find my agency at voltproductions.co. So VOLT productions.co, not .com. It will take you somewhere else. And you can also find me on Instagram, Simona with 2 underscores Costantini, or on LinkedIn as well. Those would be the easiest places.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was very fun.
Thank you. This was so
I love
fun.
this. Always, even though I know we've been almost an hour but these go by so fast and I love it.
I know.
And for everyone listening or watching, thank you for joining us. The podcast is available on all your favorite podcast platforms. So subscribe to Hello Chaos. Give us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We'd love that. Or share this great content and help us build a more connected entrepreneurial community. Hello Chaos is one of the many resources brought to you by Orange Whip. That is Orange Whip, WIP for work in progress, because that's what we all are. Orange Whip is a multimedia company dedicated to serving founders and entrepreneurs in affiliate cities. We've designed hyperlocal media platforms to inform, inspire, and be the independent connective tissue between founders and their local entrepreneurial ecosystem. We're in 3 cities of South Carolina today, looking to expand to other cities in the coming years. Our innovative digital zines are an all-in-one content hub. We tell fresh and engaging stories. We curate local calendars, so it's only one calendar that you have to keep up with of all the shit happening in your community, and dynamic roadmaps to help founders navigate all the resources that are available to them in their local market. We're always taking guest requests and sponsorship. So if you want to support us, send us an email to hello@orangewhip.com. Thank you for tuning in to Hello Chaos. It is where aha meets oh shit, and we'll see you again next week.